Hare Krishna, Namaste. The question is, my husband doesn't show any interest in spirituality. He's a very good person, and of course, he has some of his own belief and religious practices, but not at all interested in taking up spirituality serious, not interested in listening to lectures, not into reading spiritual books, doesn't welcome any spiritual discussions at home, but very interested to do many other material things very meticulously with great interest. When I try to advise, suggest, when I try to practice and take up some devotional service, all I get in return from him is scolding that I'm doing too much, I'm getting too involved in spirituality. As of now, I'm allowed to read books and listen to lectures and occasionally granted to do some devotional services. I'm afraid when restrictions will be put on these things as well. I only wish my husband is also in the same path, which makes my life easier. Moreover, it helps him as well to attain the goal of life, human life. Not sure what to do with such unfavorable, spiritually unfavorable and unsupportive family situation. What am I supposed to do? I have a lot of desire to commit more into devotional service. Will the Lord help me? Will I be able to make it this lifetime? That's a question, more than question. It's of seeking some recommendations, some guidelines to deal the situation without hurting the family relationship. Lord is always helping and willing to help for those who wants to take his help. We need to just understand his way of helping. Then we will know how he is always there to assist us. Yes, we all agree that we are not so blessed like Arjuna to have a direct and personal help and advice from Krishna. But the Lord has distributed His mercy to us, all of us, through His devotees. And we take shelter of His devotees, which is the very first step we got to do in the path of spirituality. First, to protect ourselves, to safeguard us. With that first step, now let's get to the details. It is a genuine feeling that as a wife, you want your husband to be in the same spiritual path. This may apply to our brothers, sisters, and parents as well. As devotees, one must have that compassion, which is what you have towards your husband. But the fact is, whether it is one's own spouse or someone else who's not related to us, if the person is still not ready to receive that compassion, what more can we do? So, when it comes to our family members, in this specific case, one spouse, we need to understand two things. Number one, each one has come into this world with our own karma baggage. Number two, one's lack of participation spiritually, who is close to us, is not going to affect our spiritual progress. Our spiritual progress is not dependent on someone else. We will see more as we go further into this on this particular point. Hearing your message, it appears you are certainly not in a worst condition, but not in the best either, which is usually the case with many couples, even those who are spiritually oriented or not. There will be many times that a couple get incompatibility with their ideas and opinions. Hence, no surprise to hear the same from your family. Especially when someone is spiritually inclined, there is going to be pushback from others who are not interested. That could be simply out of some fear in them. That could be a possibility. Nevertheless, your goal will not be impacted. Certainly, if one spouse is very much spiritually interested, it accelerates and encourages the other member in the family. But there are cases where one spouse, they wanted to stay in their comfort zone, not wanting to take up Krishna consciousness, devotional service seriously, put blames on their spouse, saying because of her, because of him, I'm not able to do more. I'm not saying you are such a person, but just bringing a point that there are such cases as well. They should know it's going to be really hampering their own Krishna consciousness by having such excuses to take up devotional service. As mentioned earlier, what is needed in your case, first and foremost, is a trustable spiritual guide who can help you to smoothly ride the journey within the family along with spiritual practices that will not hamper your relationship with your husband. But one should be very careful. Out of enthusiasm, one may try to market about their spiritual guidance that they are receiving from someone, but the spouse may not be interested in such things. Therefore, one must keep things as light as possible. This has nothing to do with hiding some information. This is for the betterment of the family situation. When someone is sick and that person is not ready to to hear the message that they are sick, then one must delay conveying the message when the right time comes. The same formula is applied over here as well. So that's step 1. Step 2, we all must know that to attain the Supreme Lord, a major thing that's needed for us is to cultivate jnana, knowledge. Gaining knowledge is something that no one can stop us from attaining it. As you are inclined towards studying the books, hearing the lectures, continue that very systematically. That's number 2. Number 3, after this Sambandha Jnana, through the spiritual mentor, the third thing comes into the picture, that is bhakti. One start developing bhakti. So number 1, a spiritual guide. Number 2, develop Sambandha Jnana. Number 3, develop bhakti. If you say that you already have 2 out of 3, that is, you have a mentor, you have the knowledge that you're receiving from your mentor. The problem is the third, where to accelerate, to develop, to practice the bhakti that you have. Now let's address that. We should know that anyone's spiritual progress is based on one main and base ingredient, that is knowledge. Knowledge about the self, knowledge about super soul, knowledge about the relationship between the self and super soul. With that firm knowledge, one then start developing bhakti. But that bhakti that you are speaking about is not necessarily that one has to do physical acts. A person who is physically challenged cannot mop the floor of the temple, cannot cook at the temple, cannot wash the pot. There are so many things. Does that mean they cannot attain the spiritual world? Likewise, the person who has challenges like yourself, unable to perform devotional service as you think, not necessarily that is going to be a disqualification for you to develop bhakti and to attain Krishna. As you must have heard several times, there are 9 processes of bhakti starting from Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, and so forth. It is not that one must do all the 9 process. Well, if one can do it, well and good. But even one out of this 9 can take us back to Krishna. A great saint by name Andal gives 3 easy tips to perform bhakti. She says, Vaayinal paadi manathinal sindittu thoomalar thoovi thozhudu. The first tip is, by your mouth, chant the holy names of the Lord with love and devotion. Number 2, by your mind, contemplate nididhyasanam on the qualities and pastimes of the Lord with love and devotion. And thirdly, by your hands, offer a leaf, a water, flower, or fruit unto the Lord with love and devotion. No one can stop us from doing these 3 simple things. Even if someone says that they are not allowed to chant, they are not allowed to do any offering, which is an extreme case, but no one can stop us from doing the second one, number 2. That is, by your mind, contemplate, meditate on the qualities and pastimes of the Lord with love and devotion. Because the family members who stops us from chanting and offering anything to the Lord, surely guaranteed they will not be able to stop us from smaranam, mananam, nididhyasanam, dhyanam. This is all leads to the same meaning of contemplating, meditating upon Krishna's qualities and pastimes. If you still say, even thinking, contemplating is a problem for me because I'm fully kept engaged in the family affairs to take care of each and every family members and job, etc. I literally crash to bed after working so hard throughout the day. What am I supposed to do? Well, whatever little time, possible chance that you get, think about Krishna in a surrendered mood. I'm sure you will have at least some time for yourself in a day. Therefore, surrender unto the Lord and He will protect you. And the surrendering process is also not that you got to do every single day. Even if you do one time, that is good enough. Well, that means I need to take initiation from a guru? Well, I don't think that even happened in my dream with my family situation. Looks like I am finished. There is not a bit of hope in my life. Well, Krishna will not let any one of us without any hope. He is very merciful. When you surrender to Krishna in this mode, Krishna will make all possibilities. So your spiritual progress will get accelerated. Understand, the process of surrendering is an act done through mind, a thought that takes place in our mind. Prarthana matihi sharanagatihi. The surrendering process doesn't need any external activities. In fact, no one needs to know about our surrender to Krishna. We don't need to broadcast. It is not necessary. It is totally internal. It's a deep relationship between you and Krishna. If that great sage Valmiki hasn't written Ramayana or even that Yuddha Kanda part, we wouldn't have come to know about Vibhishana Sharanagati. We would be thinking that Vibhishana simply came out of getting frustrated in Lanka. So, the surrendering is just a moment of deep prayer from our heart to the Lord. My dear Krishna, I beg you remain as my only means and only goal in my life. I have no other shelter, I have no other means. It's all you, my Lord. My life is in your hands. Actually, my life, I place it at your lotus feet. This prayer is done in our mind, a mindful prayer. No one can stop us from making such prayers in our mind. And as we heard, prayers are powerful. After you surrender, lead a peaceful life in midst of all this thing that's happening, because you have left the life at the lotus feet of the Lord with complete faith. Whatever is taking place in your life is orchestrated by the Lord Himself directly. If this can be firmly internalized, then you will have a peaceful life during any conditions in your life. Continue doing your household duties perfectly. Be a good daughter to your parents. Be a good wife to your husband. Be a good mother to your children. Be a good daughter-in-law and sister-in-law to your in-laws, and etc. Serve them nicely and internally continue to strengthen your faith in Krishna and Krishna's devotees, and try to mentally chant Krishna's name, which doesn't require much focus like that of contemplating Lord's qualities and pastimes. Who knows, a day will come where your husband and other family members, seeing you how peaceful you are, they may get inspired as well, and their dormant bhakti may get awakened. Rather, if you start continuing to show your frustration and dislike of what's happening and continue to speak about spirituality, these two things doesn't go hand in hand, and that may create aversion towards spirituality by those people who are already opposing what you're practicing. Hearing this, you may come back asking a question, so I have to bend down, I have to serve, I have to adjust, I have to compromise, I have to be good to everyone. Everything now falls on me. When I think of it, I already feel so much burdened on my shoulder. Well, if you think so, then you haven't understood the real meaning of surrender. Bhakti, whatever we mentioned earlier, is natural, nothing new. A normal person has to be so to any family members. If you're saying that doing these Stri Dharma are against doing devotional service, then that is not right at all. By giving up your duty, your Stri Dharma, and only doing devotional service, the Lord is not going to be happy. You must understand that first. You may ask, what about gopis? What about Rishi Patnis? They gave up everything, their duties. Well, if you're in that stage, that level of bhakti, then you will not even be asking this question. You would have taken the steps that gopis and Rishi Patnis have already taken. Since you have not done so, we are suggesting some things here that will be good for your current stage of bhakti. Also, the recommendation is not that therefore don't ask such questions, just walk out of the house, give up your duties, and that is not what has been preached here either. Krishna did not tell that such things to Arjuna. He wanted Arjuna to fight, do his duty. There are always exceptional cases, and we should not think we are special, we fall into that exceptional case. So in your case, you should know that whether your husband agrees or not, no one else could be a better wife than you. Whether your children agrees or not, no one can be a better mother than you. Take up this as your service to Krishna. When your family situation gets better by the mercy of the Lord, you can extend yourself to the fullest in the service of the Lord directly. There could be a follow-up question. I agree and value all that has been said here so far, but in case if I must lead my life in this same condition, if that is what Lord wants me to do, then I will never get initiated and my life will become waste. That means I cannot go back to Godhead. Well, not to worry. Even in such worse condition, a pot, which is just a matter, it got liberated and entered into the spiritual world. A pot maker who never got initiated, also entered the spiritual world. A gopi by name Chintayanti, she, just by the intense thought of Krishna, returned to the spiritual world. So pray and develop such a firm faith, strong, deeper love for Krishna internally. You will also go back to Krishna this very lifetime. Until that time comes, continue the best practices that you can in a helpless state of mind, and that Lord who situated in your heart, everyone's heart, will do what is best for you. Remember, one who has challenges in life while practicing devotional service, Krishna consciousness, becomes 10 times stronger. Not that we want to pray for problems like Queen Kunti, as we are not in that stage, but if the problem comes on its own, take that as an opportunity to strengthen your Krishna consciousness. So, a few concluding points. Rather trying to change your circumstances, it's better to change your consciousness, the way you see the things that's happening in your life. Number 2, use your intelligence based on time, place and circumstances dealing with your husband. This is not to say be cunning, this is to say be wise. Note, the wife attracts her husband by her good qualities, not by mantra, tantra, black magics, etc. So number 3, establish a trustable spiritual guide in life. Follow the guidelines. Number 4, develop a deep and firm faith in Krishna, that Krishna will protect you, all of us. That Mahavishwasam is very much needed. Number 5, continue to do the best of what you can without hampering your family. And number 6, appreciate the good things in your husband. See him as part and parcel of Krishna. One warning note, if the relationship between husband and wife is extreme, abusive, then there is no need to tolerate such situation. One can choose to stay aloof without further marriage. Just a note for those who are hearing this advice is not a cookie cutter to everyone. This is a special case, and I'm sure there could be similar cases with slight different variation, who may not be speaking out but may be looking for some guidance, who may get benefited out of this. But for those who doesn't have such difficult married life, both husband and wife should not shy away to take up Krishna consciousness seriously. Or also, if one of the family member, between either husband or wife, doesn't care about your practice, doesn't mind what you're doing, then you must move forward quickly without any delay. So that's about some small tips. Hope that helps. Now before we conclude, just few points that may help your husband's situation. It is very good that he is not an atheist and is not abusive. Therefore, there are greater hopes to help him spiritually progress as well. You can do few do's and don'ts. Do's are, number 1, connect him with some devotee family where he is comfortable with, even if it is just for social gathering initially, that's fine. But make sure that the family that you choose are friendly, welcoming, accommodative, and spiritually strong as well. But they should not be someone who forces Krishna consciousness to your husband especially. Number 2, let him continue his support in whatever way he does currently to the temple, either financially or occasionally doing some services, sharing his skills and ideas, involving in some temple projects, whatever it is. Let him choose on his own. This can also be orchestrated through some devotees. Number 3, find out his interest in Krishna consciousness. Maybe he's interested in prasadam, maybe in kirtan, or maybe in something else. Create more opportunity for that to take place. Those are 3 do's And couple of don'ts are: number one, don't try to give him any advice or correct him at this time, since you know he's not going to hear anything that comes from you. So let's not aggravate the situation. Number two, do not create any opportunity for him to offend any devotees. This is very key point. If this is done, then the whole program collapses. And be practical. Not everyone is easygoing. Not everyone will accept everything. Some learn things in harder way. If that is what, in your case, your husband needs, then be prepared and accept it and keep moving forward in your Krishna consciousness. Remember, being adamant to change others is also a sign of attachment. So try your best in a humble, prayerful mode. Don't think you are the controller. You can change the situation. Don't get attached to your ideas. You try your best. Leave the rest to that person's karma and Krishna's plan for that person. Let's not take the role of Krishna. This will surely have nothing to do with being selfish. As you know, we can only do so much from our side because we ourselves are drowning. If that person is willing to accept the help you are offering, that's well and good. If not, then move forward with those suggestions which has been offered earlier. One last thing before I conclude. The reason that I'm sharing this to all, because I got similar questions from quite few of them with just slight variation. Hence thought it will be beneficial or at least informative for others. Now, my only humble request to those who are hearing this is not to try to put the face to the person, not to start scanning each and every one thinking maybe this couple could be that who's mentioned in this recording, because the question that we are getting are not always local. So let's not waste our time on meditating about who could be that person. Rather, try to take the message and apply in our life, and maybe suggest to those who you come across with having such problems. I hope this helps. Thank you. Hare Krishna.